Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. And it is good to have you with us today because I am anxious to talk to my guests today, Wesley Walker and Gordon Harriman. And Wesley, we go back a long
We
time.
do.
You were on Central Texas Living,
I
I think
was.
2019, and as a licensed professional therapist, you were talking about kids, and we did a lot. When we talked, it was usually family type issues. And I think that particular episode was going back to school and stresses.
That's
And
right.
yeah,
It
you remember
was. It was
that?
all the things that, yeah, that go into returning to school and the stresses and the teachers and all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I do remember that.
but your expertise is also in substance issues and all that kind of thing, and that's what brings us here today, because your friend Gordon Harriman is here, and
Or you're my
Gordon
friend.
at one time was a patient.
He was.
Yeah,
Yes.
came to you for counseling.
And that's one of the interesting things about that. Several people have asked that question, and when we were on KBTX the other day, he was saying, it's kind of a new premise, and I didn't think anything of it really. Of course, it's not something that most people want to do is record their psychotherapy sessions, right? And so
Generally, that's kind of
generally
sacrosanct.
not,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
But that's not really what we've done. And one of the things that he led in with was, when a therapist and his patient bring their private conversations to the public. And that's not exactly what we've done. I mean, what we've done is my intention the whole time was to sort of pull back the cloak on what goes on in a psychotherapy session. Because so often over the years, people have been really reluctant to utilize mental health care to the extent that it's available to them. And because there's always been such a stigma around
Always,
it.
yeah.
And for a long, long time, there were more therapists than there were clients. And that changed with COVID. And when COVID came along and basically revealed an underlying mental health crisis globally,
Yeah.
there was a shift. There was a big sea change in people's interest in it. And we went from, there being a scarlet letter kind of to really, it was kind of a badge of honor to be able to get an appointment.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden there were a whole new crop of therapists that were, starting businesses. And what took me 10 years to build, it took a week to build because there was such an influx of people interested in care. And anyway, so we saw him for a long, long time. And every week we did this. And every time we'd sit down, we'd get into talking about something, and he'd be like, "We ought to record this."
Yeah.
And I grinned, and we went on about our business, and because I'm like, "We're not going to tape a psychotherapy session," but over time, I've learned more from him about Alcoholics Anonymous than I ever really knew, even as a professional clinician, because he lives it every day. He goes and he speaks and he sponsors and all of the things that he's done. And so that became a real common part of our conversation. And then the merging of mental health care and recovery, is a huge part of what I do. And then when we approached them about this podcast, they were like, "Well, we don't really have anything like that in the recovery space." And I was shocked, really, because in my world, recovery and mental health care go hand in hand. They have to.
Well, so as you allude, you have a podcast, you and Gordon have a podcast. It's called Facing the Mirror here through Rogue Media Network. And Gordon, so congratulations, 34 years
Yes, ma'am.
sober.
It's been a journey. The best thing that ever happened to me and the hardest thing I've ever done. But what I knew was that if I ask questions and seek that certain things would fall into place, and they have. And sort of like Wesley and I getting together, if I didn't hurt enough to seek relief, I wouldn't have probably met him. And growing through a lot of the past is difficult. Alcoholics Anonymous gave me a forum to do it and be loved, and Wesley gave me the ability to love myself again.
Right. So these are the tools that you talk about, I think, in your podcast. Facing the mirror. So let's talk about how you came up with the name for that.
We were talking about that a minute ago off camera. So if you listen to our podcast, oftentimes, well, so Gordon makes
Just
fun of
say
me.
it.
Gordon makes fun of me because I dropped the V word the other day on television, vanity. And so at some point or another during our time together, we discovered that we both that was a little bit of an Achilles heel for us, and that we played a lot of our issues out through buying things and clothes and the way we look and what people thought, and all of those things kind of manifested themselves in comparison and ultimately vanity. And so we constantly were talking about things like that. And for whatever reason, we were sitting around trying to decide what we were going to call it, and facing the mirror came up. And there's a whole lot of double entendre in that, we're not often looking in the mirror at the things we ought to be looking at. We're looking at things that are superficial and not particularly meaningful or lasting. And so I pitched that to him, and he was like, "Oh, wow, that's great."
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah,
See,
it
he's
is
so
deep.
he's so nice that he won't tell you what name I came up with before. Because,
Which was?
and I'm not going to say it. I mean, but in my world, there's when somebody breaks through something that's been difficult, the terminology is that's good S.
Okay.
And
Well, it's a podcast. I guess you can.
and
You
well,
can
I'm
say that.
trying.
Right, I understand.
This is
Stuff.
a
I
segue
was trying
to
to
a
be
deeper
sweet.
issue I
Yeah.
have, apparently.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got blocked on that name because I was like, man, that says everything.
Yeah.
But it spoke to me, and then
And I was, trying to be reasonably subtle and professional. And I'm like, not everybody's going to probably take to that name, but I totally understood what the purpose of the name was.
Yeah,
And
right.
so if you listen to our podcast, that particular phrase comes up quite a bit,
Quite a bit,
actually.
yeah.
And so, but anyway, that's kind of the way that started. And the mirror being sort of the ultimate expression of yourself, right? I tell people a lot of times in the office, you need to get in front of the mirror and say, "We got this. I'm the only person that's going to take care of you," and get in front of the mirror and talk to yourself, because sometimes you're the only person that ultimately has a say or control, in a recovery type situation, any of them. And so the mirror, there are mirrors in my office. There's a mirror in the hallway. We always put mirrors in our office so people can touch up their makeup. If
Oh,
there's
yeah,
been
yeah.
a little,
well,
there's
if
been,
Wesley doesn't have a mirror, he can look in a reflection of a window.
you think I need one that bad?
No, I'm just saying, you never know.
That's funny. But yeah, so that's how that started.
Okay.
And
Well,
for me, it's real quickly. It's
Yeah.
That's what this is all about: a deep and inner self reflection of where you are at that moment. Whether you like seeing what you see on the outside, the underlying issue with me was always y'all couldn't see it. So I spent a lot of times in my beginning of recovery trying to express to y'all how I felt. And that's a recipe for, because I can't tell my wife the pain I'm going through, because she needs to experience her pain. And if she's not in that with me, it just doesn't register. Like, why are you so miserable, Gordon?
Well, and, her interpretation of that.
Right.
and it
it's-
could be totally wrong.
Absolutely.
Which
everybody,
Yeah.
you're seeing this room for what you see. I got to be receptive to what you see so I can, because it's not going to be the same thing I see. I just don't think me and you would focus on one thing.
Well, and I
and I
think-
need to allow myself to go, Ann, what do you see? And then let's talk from there. You know?
And I think part of recovery, part of the process has been developing empathy, I think. And I think that was a long standing conversation within our conversations, was developing empathy. And I know that along with alcoholism comes a very self-absorbed perspective. And pain is selfish. When you're in pain, you're very
Right.
self-absorbed.
That's all that matters.
Absolutely.
Is
And
what you're
so
feeling.
you begin to lose sight of how other people see you, about how you come across, about the things that you say and their impact. And so I think backing out of some of that and getting him to a place, and I know the conversations we had about his communications with his wife and letting her experience him the way she's going to experience him, and her perspective of all of that without him trying to control the narrative was a big thing. And so I think part of enhancing your understanding of empathy in those situations was a huge thing, and it always is. Understanding what somebody else is going through.
When you look in the mirror and you're looking to that table, what do you see, Gordon?
I don't. I mean, I judge it that morning. And some days I don't. If I took a shower when I got home at night, I won't wake up and primp for the day. And I've Wesley can testify. This is the most dressed up I've been, maybe for you, Ann, and then the news, but too live. But I think my inner peace is driven on being comfortable.
Yeah.
So I've embraced my jeans and t-shirt and a ball cap. And for me, to do that was a big thing, because if you take this away from me, at least I have this to shield me for a minute. We can focus on, look at the socks, look at
Those are great socks. By the way.
well, thank you. And I'm a Baylor Bear. Imported from Houston, as a matter of fact, but been here since '89. So
Oh, wow.
Waco's home.
1989. One of the things we talk about a lot in the podcast is the idea of getting up every morning and putting on a cloak. We put on a costume. You and I have got a lot of history with that, and I think we all wear costumes a lot, and we're not being particularly authentic with one another. And I think a lot of that's eroded, and I think that's a lot of the problems that people have is because they're not able to be their authentic self with a lot of people they interact with. And I think hiding and and being somewhat duplicitous is maybe not the word I want to look at, but not being as real as you want to be is often a significant cause for people's inner conflict, I think.
Well,
I'm not trying to make that, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make that a bigger thing than it is, but you put on masks all the
Well,
time.
and of course, and I'm thinking Facebook, social media is a perfect example for
100%.
everybody.
If you
Everybody's
want to
highlight
see
reel.
kids that will lose their minds, take their cell phones away from them.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like when someone is trying to take alcohol away from us. It's the only
That's a good
thing
point.
that, and Wesley said it, it's the only last thing that we can hide behind. Because at the end of the day, I can go, I'm just an alcoholic. I'm just doing what we do.
Just
And you-
excusing your
And
behavior
you
for
get
that.
two of those people that are like-minded with one common goal is to get sober. Authentic. You can't not be authentic. You just can't help it. You get a guy in there that's going to love you enough to tell you the truth. Like when you're in pain, somebody to let you go through it and then go, pain is mandatory, Gordon. Suffering is optional.
I love that saying.
Quit suffering. Quit wallowing in
choice.
it. Join the human race.
Yeah.
Why are you going to get sober if you're miserable? And that's a true statement for an alcoholic. Why am I not going to do the one thing that I rely on if I'm not happy? Why would
Yeah.
I deny myself that? Thankfully, I denied myself. Well, the choice was made for me. I could have easily slipped back in my years of disconnectedness, meaning the fellowship. I at least go with like-minded people and then live my life. I mean, if you're struggling and whatever, if you get somebody else that has that same struggle, then they don't judge you. They understand how you feel. And they're not going to try to make you understand my feeling. I'm going to let you have yours and empathize with you because I've been through it. You know,
and not judge.
and that's the fellowship.
Right.
You know, but I can do that out here. I can do that with my encounter with you.
Yeah.
If I leave here in Wesley's office better than I found it, then that's my miracle
Oh, sure.
today.
Sure. Well, and of course you touched on AA, and that's kind of the beauty of that when that was created so many years ago, for it to be a non-judgmental place for people to be authentic and to seek that help and
Well,
that
for two
mentorship.
alcoholics to find one another for this to happen, if you can't wrap your head around that's something greater than we could try to do. When I try to get someone to get sober, I can't. I just can't.
No.
I got to have them hurt and come and hopefully have a minute for vulnerability. So when I meet with people, we just talk. I'm going to share with you what I went through and what this program did to me. Whether you do it or not is up to you. You know what I mean? And that entices people like us. Like, they're not making me do anything. I'll go check that out again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not at all dissimilar to what goes on in my office, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of what Facing the Mirror was for me, was to bring that awareness to folks, that it wasn't anything to be scared of, that no one was going to treat you like you were crazy. And, you know, some of those very simplistic perspectives still maintain out there, you know, and people are afraid and don't want anybody to think, you know, I'm going to see a therapist, what's wrong with me? You know, that kind of thing still exists. And, you know, one thing I want to touch on before we move away from that is the difference between pain and suffering is basically about perspective. And our very first episode was titled Perspective. And we didn't plan that. It just sort of came about. And it was about managing your perspective. And throughout life, how many situations there are where it's all about how you perceive what happened or what is going to happen, and how you manage that. And we've had so much feedback about that particular episode. I mean, we're like 33 or 4 episodes in now, and that first episode gets referred to often by people and wanting us to develop the idea of perspective because it's central to everything we do. And that goes back to the difference between pain and suffering. You can't necessarily always control pain, but you can control how you handle it. Certainly emotional pain. And because you handle it via reaction or response, right? You can be reactive, and generally that's an immediate response, right? That you don't necessarily think about. Or you can respond, and by responding, you tend to give yourself options, and generally, hopefully, respond in a healthier way.
And we're the only ones that have control over
That's
how we
absolutely
Well,
respond.
it's
to things.
interesting. I just thought of this, and I do this quite often. But it's like you transitioning, and I heard you sharing, and I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I just want to learn more about you. And I heard you say your transition to your show to about Central Texas. Well, it's cool. And you said you transitioned through that and transitioned to this, but for 2 years you got to make Central Texas better from your show.
Yeah.
And so, in my perspective is that if I'm living in Central Texas now, I hope what we're doing here today makes Central Texas better than when Wesley and I found it.
Well, no question about that. And we're going to talk more. We're going to learn a little bit more about the two of you when we come back. So stay with us. Today's show is brought to you by Main Event Entertainment Center. They've got it all. They've got bowling, virtual reality, laser tag, billiards, shuffleboard, and more. And if you mention my name, Ann Harder, when you're booking, you get double arcade play free. And if you book by July 24th, your guest of honor will play free. For your next main event, it's Main Event, 2420 Creekview Drive in Waco, right next to the Cinemark Theaters.
If I've learned anything in the last year, it's that to show up as my best, I need to make intentional choices. And that goes back to the absolute basics. Number one, it's I have to move. And number two, to stay hydrated.
I have been using molecular hydrogen from Water and Wellness to support my health and well-being. It helps with energy, recovery, liver health, and more. The hydrogen has been a game-changing addition to my own wellness routine. The tablets dissolve into my water and deliver powerful minerals to help my body feel its best all day long.
I know it's just Monday, but looking ahead to Friday, it's KWBU's Summer Nights at Brotherwell Brewing. It's at 6 p.m. and should be a lot of fun. Stay with us. More of the Ann Harder Show is ahead.
Revive Superfood Smoothies. Pill, pour, blend, and enjoy. All within the comfort of my own home.
Revive Superfood Smoothies. Peel, blend, and enjoy. Fast and easy, and I'm out the door.
At Mapiful, we believe in celebrating your journey, past, present, and future. Our unique personalized products are designed to boost your confidence, elevate creativity, and honor what matters most. From custom home decor to meaningful gifts, we help you cherish the memories that make you who you are. Visit mapiful.com and start celebrating your story today.
And we're back with Gordon Harriman and Wesley Walker, and they are the hosts of Facing the Mirror podcast right here on the Rogue Media Network. And what's really interesting about this is that this kind of dynamic between a former patient and therapist isn't done too often. So you don't have like recorded sessions. You just how do you decide what to talk about from week to week?
Do you want to answer that?
Well, if you listen to the show, I try not to be reactive. I try to be proactive. But in certain
Good, you
situations,
listened.
but if I've been listening,
I know.
But
no,
if-
you have.
if I'm not, see, you broke my train
I'm
of
so
thought.
sorry.
Um,
I tend to do that.
perspective. Anyway, I moved. I forgot. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I can't
Moving
remember.
Oh, you can't remember. Well,
Lead me back.
How did this, the way we do this, me being a former, a therapist, you being a former client, why is it that we chose to do this way? And how did it come about that you chose to want to do this with me?
Because obviously you were driving the train on this.
Yes.
Not every
And
Yes.
thank you. Now
person wants to just lay it all out there. And I see this as another part of your recovery, frankly.
100%.
And I'm glad you noticed that, because, when you, like my grandmother, for instance, there was a lot of conversations we had one-on-one when I wished I would have recorded it.
Yeah.
And she was talking about Waco in the beginning and
Oh, gosh.
stuff like that. And Saronia was a real impactful. I just moved. That book had just come out. And my grandmother, I brought a copy home, and she crossed through the fictitious names and filled in
The real names.
Oh, no.
And so,
Oh, my, do you still have that
Wow.
copy?
no, I bet you I do. I just have to find it. But point being, some of these encounters we had with Wesley, I was like, man, I wish I would record that so I could
Right.
listen to it again and hold myself accountable.
Well, and see if you still feel the same way, hearing it a second time, too. I mean, things...
And you
can
touched
change.
on it. This part of the journey of 34 episodes, I thought about that I just reflected. And so much childhood healing. My dad was a monumental impact that happened when Wesley and I was sitting where you are. And I let him go with love. Mm-hmm. And he had the same disease I did. I just couldn't forgive him. Yeah. I knew I needed to, but I hadn't forgiven myself, and my mentors and the people that truly touched me, taught me that. and it's not on my time frame, and it hadn't been. My dad died when I was 17. I'm 58 now,
Oh my goodness.
and I've had 34 years of recovery.
Yeah.
You would think 33 I would have dealt with it, but that wasn't the way it was supposed to be. And if I didn't give myself an opportunity to grow during that, I would have missed it, you know? And Wesley does such a great job of, I just felt at home when I first met him. Mm-hmm. He told me his absolute truth in the foyer of the National Lloyd's building. He said, I'm not a morning person, but if you commit to 8:30, I will commit. And we did.
Really?
And we did, yeah.
Well, good for you, Wesley.
Right, I'm Donald D6. And
Because you didn't have him to.
I didn't
pattern
have
your-
a picture. My
You didn't have a
parents were
template.
divorced, and I had a wonderful stepfather, and me and my mom couldn't have been any closer. But the family structure, the family dynamic is what I missed.
Well, as
Yeah.
those conversations evolved, that became kind of a goal for us to figure out how we're going to structure what you're going to do to move forward past 46. And look what he's doing, right? He's brought
Yeah.
this message and pulled me along with him, which I'm very grateful to be here. But, within the context of that, so often he was like, there's a lot of people who need to hear this. And a lot of people
question.
can benefit from these conversations. And certainly I knew that, but not ever from the perspective of a real public forum like this. And then as we began to talk about how it was going to look, it just kind of evolved into this. And it became something that we were just going to share and see where it went.
And the podcast world is safe. It's just me and
Right.
him. It's just the three of us.
Right.
And
And also for the person listening, it's safe.
it is.
Absolutely.
It's safe. It really, I feel, I told you before we met through K-Mets and.
Oh,
and-
yeah.
and-
Waco ISD Education Foundation.
and-
That's how I know you're.
And that's one of the women I listened to, and she said, "You need to do this, Gordon." And I didn't question. I just said, "Okay." And that's how my journey in recovery's been. If the hand extends, the worst thing I can do for myself is say no. Unless, when the hand of Alcoholics Anonymous reaches out to me, if I don't have a prior commitment to my son, my two sons, and my wife, then I was told that you just don't question, just say yes. But you cannot deny the people that may have been hurt the most, the family. Mm-hmm. This is the goal for the rest of your life. And so I had to find a balance. It's like anything. When you're feeling good and you're helping people, you can go 100 into that and forget about the people that have been there for you.
Talk about balance a lot on the podcast. One of the things I've learned tremendously from him is just the idea of letting things happen the way they're going to happen. And that's been a big part of his recovery, is not trying to control the outcome.
Or define it. Just let it be what it is.
And Justin asked us on the interview the other day where we wanted to take the podcast. Mm-hmm. And the thing he said was, I want to take it where it's willing to go.
Yeah.
And of course I followed up with, and I want to be able to help as many people and impact as many people as we can, regardless of what form that comes in, right? But letting things happen and evolve the way they're going to happen, and not being so focused on determining the outcome,
controlling
has
it.
been a huge part of this.
Yeah. That's something I did want to touch on, is what do you want the takeaway to be every time you sit down and record your podcast?
Well, it's like sitting here with you. My only goal was to bring something in here, and when I leave, maybe you feel better. And I know I will. Mm-hmm. It hadn't let me down yet. And with that, now we're in a situation where your listeners can get, and one person of your listeners, if they hear something, then it's worth it to me. Mm-hmm. And that's all I want. I want one person. That's it. Whoever that is, however that gets to them, I just want it to get to them.
One of the things, Justin, again, great questions he had for our interview. He asked a similar question, but what he asked was from the premise of our discussions about serious topics, addiction, mental health, all of the things we kind of cover, and all the very specific pieces and parts that go into all of that. How do we do that and bring humor and heart to it? And I think that was so much a part of yet again, my intention about that was to peel back the curtain and show people this is how it can be. It doesn't have to be something you're afraid
I think
of.
there's a lot of mystery about that too. You know, what is it going to be like if I make that appointment or go to that AA meeting? You know, how
It was sort of like that when Zoom came out. I'm a people person. I need human contact. I need to be able to see you. I know that smile that you have right now is genuine. I can see that. Zoom was hard for me, but I did it because I felt that the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous would love that, because through our progress since the 30s, a book came out of it, and that was their Zoom, and
talking about the big book, yeah.
and so we got to take these. There's a fraction of people in there that didn't believe in it because of the promotion aspect. And I make it a point that some people that don't understand out there ask me a lot, why are you so nervous about promotion? I go, I've spent my whole life promoting myself. So there's a fine line, because I don't speak for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous as a whole. I don't represent them. I represent the results of committing to something and sticking with it. If it's going to 2 meetings a week, just make one. And if you miss the second one, try to make the second one next week. But just make one.
Well, it's having a place to be and a place to be understood. I think more so than anything, everyone wants to be seen. And when you feel like what it is that you have to show someone is not necessarily as positive as you might like, for instance, walking into an AA meeting, you know, and all the troubles that you might bring with you, that's scary. You know, it makes one very apprehensive, right? And again, walking into my office is the same thing, because it's very seldom that someone initially walks into my office with positive things going on, right? There's a reason.
There's a reason they're there, yeah.
Well, it would be like you going to a big event in your beginning of your broadcast career, knowing you were in the right place, but you were highly uncomfortable being there.
Yeah.
But you didn't turn around and leave. You sat through the uncomfortableness to see why do you feel that way? If I wasn't supposed to be here, I wouldn't have this feeling of just stay.
I think creating an environment of trust is very important, right? And I think being open to conversation with people and like this, I've had several psychotherapist friends of mine tell me how brave I was to do this, and I'm like, what do you mean brave?
Well, it is unusual.
Well, what's funny though is I'm just being myself. So I never did understand how that was brave. I see it, I do, but at the same time, I'm thinking I'm just doing what I do, you know, and I think knowing that you can find a place where you can trust someone. I always tell people, you know, the best work's done within the context of a relationship, and that's always been my perspective, is to develop a real relationship. I'm not the guy who sits back and nods my head and stereotypically lets the other person do all of the talking, and because I can't expect you to trust me if you don't know anything about me, right?
Have y'all watched Landman?
No.
Okay, that's all right. If you
I
ever
haven't.
do, Billy Bob Thornton's character is the prime example of a person working the program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
It's cut and dry. It's meant with love, but I'm going to tell you the truth with no fluff. That's how much I love you. And it's a good place for guys like me that over-explain everything to concisely share my thoughts. And yesterday I was at a meeting, and a young lady I trust a lot, we were talking, and she had a similar experience to mine the day before. And it's a perception that alcoholics have via text, via whatever, and an encounter with another person. And I had a tough encounter for me. It wasn't for anybody else. I just did something. I ate something that wasn't mine out of our refrigerator.
At home.
At home. And
do that
I
all the
didn't think anything about it. And I ate my piece of pizza. God, my wife probably hates this, but God bless her. She's been married. She knows what she married. But she saved a piece of pizza and left it in the box because she wanted it the next day. I woke up at midnight, and often as I do, and
Went foraging.
and had
Amazing the controversy
I had
these
no
things can
thought of
cause.
whose it was. I knew it wasn't mine because I ate all mine. And by about 2:30, I heard her truth. And I was with another member, and he heard her truth. And he knows me very well. And I had the biggest smile on my face because that woman told me how selfish I was in that moment. And it had a great impact on me. And so I took it one step further and said, I hope I don't make that decision if that was the last pizza she and I had. I would want to be the person to offer it to her.
Yeah.
And I didn't. So I know I'm still selfish, as humans are. And that lady had an experience the next day, and I was trying to explain myself to her, and she goes, I finally figured you out, Gordon. I went, really? Tell me. And she
Yeah,
goes,
yeah, explain me. Yeah.
well, she says, you talk in shorthand. I understand shorthand.
Oh,
For those who don't have a clue of what you're talking about. And I thought, I didn't ask my wife. I don't know if she knows shorthand or not, but she didn't understand. I was like, okay, I need to listen and try to articulate better.
What
Because
an interesting perspective. Because
Isn't
now,
that interesting?
if I look at it through that
Think
lens,
of it.
knowing how you communicate, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does now.
But you can piece my pieces together, and probably can. But I think today, for some reason, I'm not bouncing like I tend to do.
You see how we laugh in that situation?
And humor.
There's a sign in my office that says, it's a Mary Englebright thing. I don't know where we got it from, but it hangs in the secretary's area. So whoever's talking with our secretary can see it. It says, well, let's put the fun back in dysfunctional.
I heard you say that on the interview.
Right? And so, and
The
that,
fun back in
and,
dysfunctional.
and I think, Justin had asked us about that and about humor and heart. And I think part of making someone comfortable with this process is understanding that it's not all going to be bad.
Right.
Yeah, you got to bring me the bad, but I'm going to hopefully be able to figure out how to help you resort that into taking something good out of it and reframing those things and making it a positive experience that you want to come back and do more work,
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we've been over the years. We never seem to run out of things to talk about.
Well, it's like my sponsor, would say, we would go through a situation, and it was really a big deal to me, but it really wasn't. He would find something we could laugh about through that at myself. Because one of the things I try to do, it's forefront in my mind, is truly laugh at myself. Because through that, a lot of healing comes. And the last person in my life that I lost in the program was Walter. And he was a great guy. And he just reminded me how much healing I get out of true laughter, typically at something I did. So if I react to a situation like a spoiled little brat, which I can, my sponsor said, oh, you threw your rattle out of your high chair.
See, there
And
we
then
go.
you got
Right.
pissed
you
off
go.
that no one picked it up and brought it back to you.
Oh.
And quite frankly, no one's even paying attention to you. and they don't even know you threw the rattle out, and we would laugh.
Yeah.
But it was true.
That's true.
That moment, it was all about me. Be damned about that. I'm going to tell you how a 7-year-old reacts, and I'm capable of regressing without this guy.
You know, there are three significant, four, I guess, if he includes me, but three significant people that have been extremely impactful in your recovery: Jim, James,
And Harry.
and Harry. And over the course of time, I have heard so many stories about these men and how their impact has been so significant for him. And yet the biggest part of those encounters and impacts was all about being direct and serious, right? And in a often funny, kind of humorous way, but oftentimes stinging and direct, right? And one of the things we've talked about here recently is the fact that all those guys are gone.
Yeah.
And one day we were taping the podcast and we were talking about it live like this, and I was like, well, it's you. You're it, right? And you've taken over where they left off. But look at the library of information that you have from them and from your own experience in it.
And I suspect you were as big a part of their lives as well.
Of
Well,
course.
thank you.
Absolutely.
They told me I was.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, it's like they'll tell you, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And that's a true statement in my experience. And it just starts with somebody looking at you at the worst moment you think of your life, and they go, I understand.
Yeah.
And that's it. And sometimes, the flip side to James is polar opposite of Jim. James is, hey, James, you have a minute? Yes. I need to talk. And he'd look you dead in the square in the face and go, are you prepared to hear the truth? And some days I said yes, and some days I just got up and go no. Yeah. And I've never been with somebody that could do that directly, and I feel the love. Or they wouldn't have wasted their time with me. It just hurt a little bit, but I laughed because I'm like, I walk into it every time. And the people that see me on a day in, the best thing about going to meetings regularly is everybody can see where you're at. And if you walk in one day and go, I'm good, they'll go, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You want to go talk?
Call you out.
And that saved my life. It saves my life with interactions with people. I don't want to flip you off because you cut me off. I want to go, maybe she needs to get her child to the hospital, or maybe because I have to look at me like that, or I'm going to be, I would be somebody you wouldn't want to hang around with.
Well, part of my work with a lot of people is teaching people to see beyond.
Get out of yourself.
See beyond the impact, right? Like whatever the impact is, the trauma, whatever it is. I worked with a woman that I've seen for many, many years. And when I first started seeing her, she had a lot of physical problems. And essentially it was a manifestation of anxiety, but she had a lot of physical symptoms, lots of heart problems, palpitations, things like that. And so she went through this whole medical journey of trying to figure out what all of that was. And they could never really put a label on it. And so ultimately, I think we just began to figure out it was the manifestation of a lot of anxiety, having come through a lot of trauma. Anyway, what we began to identify, and this was early on in my career, I didn't know what I was doing. And I was trying to figure out, how can I get her to not respond so in such a huge way to the impact, right? Like the here and now of what you've got right in front of your face, and look beyond, right? Like, how are you going to respond? What's it going to look like next week? How are you going to handle this post impact? And so then, fortunately, as we continued, we began to identify patterns, right? And there was a buildup, and then there was the impact, and then there was the recovery, right? And then we'd start up that hill again. And we began to sort of articulate that as, look, beyond the impact, you're going to be okay. And you're going to handle it, and it might not be exactly the way you want it to, but you're going to be okay, right? And naturally, when you begin to focus someone beyond the impact, it lessens their reactivity to the impact, because they know that it's not, what do I do now? Like, I don't have any resources to handle this, and so I'm in this reactivity. I'm reacting. I'm not responding. And so teaching people to respond is the point. And that's been a lot of the work with him. Yeah. And I've had to learn to do that myself. So,
well, it's such a wonderful opportunity people have to take part in learning more about your relationship and your journey in sobriety, which is 34 years in. That's awesome.
Well,
that's wonderful.
One day at a time.
As one day at a time. That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Wesley, your work is just amazing. What you're wanting to do is demystify the whole world of help that you can
Mental
offer.
health care.
Isn't it
And so, yeah.
amazing that we, as humans, sometimes forget about ourselves
Yeah.
and put ourselves
All the
before
time.
others? And I remember my mom was at MD Anderson, and we were leaving, and I had to go through a caregivers class. And the message they gave the caregivers were, put your personal recovery first, because if you don't, you won't be
You
good.
won't be of any use.
And they meant physical, they meant rest, they meant eat, and that had an impact on me as well.
Good advice there. Again, how can folks see Facing the Mirror? How can they find that?
Well, I always laugh. There's the whole, wherever you find
Who
your
are we,
podcast,
Wesley?
Rogue Media. We're on. Are we on Spotify?
Yes.
I'm sure you're
We're
everywhere.
on Spotify.
Yeah.
We're on iHeartRadio,
Apple Podcast.
Apple Podcasts.
Facing the Mirror Pod, Instagram.
Okay, very good. All right. Thanks to you both.
Thanks, Sam.
Appreciate your time today and your openness and transparency of what you're dealing with, and just all the best to you both.
Well, thank you for letting us into your forum, and it is an honor.
Well, it's been a delight for me.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
both.
that.
Escape into fitness with the Schwinn IC4 bike, providing a premium, heart-pumping indoor cycling experience that combines digital connectivity with superior Schwinn quality. The IC4's smooth, quiet ride features magnetic resistance with 100 micro-adjustable resistance levels. Escape the everyday with the Schwinn IC4 bike, your ticket to a life well lived.
I appreciate so much Gordon and Wesley's transparency on these important mental health topics. And be sure to check out their podcast, Facing the Mirror. It's right here on the Rogue Media Network. The Ann Harder Show is brought to you by Main Event. Coming up later in the show, music by the wonderful Sami Brown. You are going to love her. Stay with us.
I just got my Colgate Advanced LED Whitening Treatment in the mail, and I am very excited to have dramatically whiter teeth in just 10 days. My teeth are going to be 6 shades whiter. The treatment is enamel safe and hassle-free. It's even designed for my sensitive teeth. Let's open it up. Inside we have the blue light whitening device. It's a charger for after each treatment as well. There's a full 10-day supply, and it looks easy to apply. Order yours today at shop.colgate.com.
Baby, today's the day for you to go away. I got your dog on a leash, the boxes are all out front. And baby, this ain't your home. I'm excited to sleep alone, 'cause for a man, you are such a country boy. Well, get gone, gone, gone. And baby, I'm moving on. Got better things to do than hear you talk. pretty eyes. So here's your boots, you said were made to walk. Darling, I am through. I won't have to deal with you. So here's an idea I would like to pitch. And darling, just you leave and go be Tom Petty, free falling. You are always one son of a gun. And get gone, gone, gone. And baby, I'm moving on. I got better things to do than hear you talk. And don't cry, cry, cry. I won't bat my pretty eyes. So here's your boots, you said were made to walk. Well, get gone, gone, gone. I said, baby, I'm moving on. Got better things to do than hear you talk. And don't cry, cry, cry. I won't bat my pretty eyes. So here's your boots, you said were made to walk. Well, here's your boots, you said were made to walk. Well, here's your boots, you said were made to walk.
When you view the glass half full, the little things become magical. Like kicking back and sharing laughs, spread good vibes, and they'll come back. Celebrate what you love with what you wear, even if what you love is kind of weird. Life is good in super soft tees that spark smiles and connectivity. 10% of profits go to help kids heal. So choose optimism and make the magic real. Visit lifeisgood.com.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Explore unforgettable experiences with Forest Travel. Experience the pinnacle of luxury travel with our exclusive global selection. From secluded villas to elegant train voyages, each moment is tailored for sophisticated exploration. As one of the most renowned and awarded travel agencies in the world, we are pleased to elevate your next journey to an entirely new level. Your extraordinary journey begins now. Forest Travel.
Mom and Dad can be a little competitive. They get all, yeah, buddy, and heck yeah. Lucky for them, Main Event has over 85 games and activities to play together, so they can get rematch after rematch after rematch. So do something awesome together.
Lonely seeker, where's your place in this world? I know that Sunday preacher, I couldn't help that girl. I said on leaving, I told her she was no good. Never did much talking to say she's misunderstood. Rolling with the sun, night will always tell you when to run. She don't know who she is. She left her heart out west and just ain't one too many. She thinks they're all like the rest. The thoughts of Jesus, she speaks of God with her friends. And now they won't listen, 'cause what she does on weekends, rolling with the sun. The night will always tell you when to run. She don't know who she is, and she just knows who she's with. Though to some she roams, she has made herself her home just by one simple vow. There is here, there is now, rolling with the sun. The night will always tell you when to run. She don't know who she is, she just knows who she's with.
Smoke Pub was created by a group of friends who share a passion for great whiskey and cocktails. Frustrated by the lack of easy-to-use cocktail smokers, we set out to design something better. Our goal was simple: make smoking cocktails quick, clean, and fun. After countless experiments, we developed Smoke Pub, the world's first electric cocktail smoker. Join us on this exciting journey and discover the magic of Smoke Pub, where unforgettable cocktails begin.
Be the best parent to the best S-Pup. For Kitty, we decode more than 100,000 data points, so you know what makes them walk, talk, and act like only they can. We provide the best care and make smart health decisions, now and forever. Plan better, care smarter, love longer. Wisdom Panel, the world's leading pet DNA service.
Deer Valley, where innovative comfort and stylish design meet. Bathroom solutions. Smart toilets. Kitchen solutions. Deer Valley. Stylish living, savvy savings.
Thanks for joining us. Tomorrow we visit with Mission Waco's John Calloway and hear about the new Creekside Community Village. We'll also get some great music from Morgan Lee Powers. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.